well, the game's called the day before, but they delayed it, and I'm sure it was like the day before they were going to release a trailer. Then they cancelled releasing the trailer because there was a trademark dispute on their name, which got it removed from Steam. It's now hidden on Steam. So for some reason, that made them not show their trailer. But then they went back on that and showed the trailer, and it's literally 10 minutes of a character walking around.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't get the hype over it. I mean, it's just another really bland and generic looking post-apocalypse zombie survival thing. And yet you've got sites like IGN constantly hammering on about it. It's like they're obviously been paid.
Oh,
I mean,
without
you
doubt,
wouldn't
yeah.
keep pushing something like that. Yeah.
Well, I started off the recording because I wanted to capture that. I was just gonna use a sound check and then you just kept going. I'm gonna stop it for just a moment and we'll get back to that. Hi. That start was kind of unplanned. Welcome back to the show, Liam. How's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks.
It's episode 154, I think. I don't know. Doesn't matter. No one pays attention to the number. How's it going, Mr. Nobody invites you to do collabs?
You're like the only person who ever invites me on something. It's funny.
Just gotta, put out more tweets being like, someone invite me to do something, and then maybe, maybe someone will bite then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to do stuff. It's just finding time to do it in between everything else.
That's totally fair. Well, it's 2 in the morning for me, so I can find time to do things. As much as I probably shouldn't, be recording at 2 in the morning, but it's fine. We're here anyway. We'll just see how I'm feeling an hour from now. I feel fine right now, but usually what happens is it just goes whoo, and then I start being delusional halfway through, which is where it gets fun.
I mean, 2 o'clock in the morning is pretty standard times for what we do, isn't it?
Oh, pretty much. I try to get to sleep at like a reasonable, midnight, 12:30 at like the latest. But, sometimes things happen and you just keep going and going and going.
Yeah, sounds familiar. I mean, I've jumped out of bed at midnight before to get something done, so
Yeah, but you
it's just
like
the way of it.
we talked about that last time. Like you write like way too many articles on gaming on Linux. Like I don't even know how many you do a day. I know you were saying last time it's not like, that much work that goes into them, but even so, the fact that just so many go up, it still remains impressive to me.
Yeah, it's more the video side nowadays. It takes a lot of time,
Right,
and
right.
like, because I think I'm just about to hit 33,000 on YouTube now, and that's mostly only over the last 1 year.
Oh, wow.
Because yeah, like before the Steam Deck released, I pretty much mostly ignored YouTube. Like I wasn't bothered about it. We did a bit on Twitch, but
Yeah, yep.
I've never been a big fan of live streaming. It's really taxing on you.
Yeah.
Um, but ever since the Steam Deck is out, yeah. I mean, it's practically all I do on the YouTube because, well, you put up a Linux gaming video on desktop and nobody watches it, so it's just it's pointless. Whereas you put one about the Steam Deck talking about like could be anything,
Yep.
and the views are like through the roof.
Look, all you need now is some second device to become popular running Linux. Like, I did see about like the Iron Neo OS, which is like a Linux-based thing that's happening at some point. That's what you need to make things really pop off. Not just the Steam Deck. You need more than one thing to talk about. I'm honestly
Yeah.
surprised that people still care so much about Steam Deck content, though. Like, I'm not surprised the device became popular. I'm just surprised that it sort of stayed as a thing that people are still excited for things to happen.
Yeah, well, I see it a similar way as you see any kind of PC gaming, anything dedicated to Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and so on. It's once you become a fan of something, you want to go out there and watch and find more things on it. And I
That's
think
fair.
that's just stayed. And I mean, the deck's clearly popular. I mean, we learned I think it was around October last year that it sold like 1 million, and only
Mm.
just recently they've expanded into Asia. So, I mean that's a huge area and a lot of people, and they love their handhelds. So, I mean, it's only going to keep growing.
Yeah, and I'm still waiting for them to, offer sales in Australia. Just let me give you money, Val. And look, I know I can like, parcel forwarding, import it, all that stuff, but Valve, just strike a deal with somebody. I know there are rumors, I think like last year or something about discussions with EB Games, but nothing's happened on that front. There's no news about a possible Australia release. So all of this stuff's happening, all of this cool stuff with the Steam Deck, all of these cool accessories coming out, and I'm just sitting here being like, okay, Valve, something, anything, please.
Yeah, I imagine they're gonna release some more regions
Mm.
officially this year. Well, I mean, they kind of have to at this point because
Mm-hmm.
it's clearly got staying power. It's clearly popular. They're gonna want to expand it as much as they can now.
No, I totally get it being an issue early on with, the whole chip shortage, all that. I do kind of wish they'd at least given some indication about what was happening in other regions, even if at that time you weren't able to buy it. It was just like, okay, we plan to expand at this point, like an expansion roadmap. Um, but then
Yeah,
if
I don't expect anything like that from
no,
Valve,
not
really.
from Valve, absolutely not. Look, it's a nice dream, but yeah. Or look, the other option, right, is open up, like, have some sort of deal in the works and open up pre-orders and have the pre-orders be delivered like 2 or 3 years later. Just anything at all.
Yeah, they're still, even though they're a lot more chatty nowadays, like they've
Mm.
got a lot better at their communication, they're still a very closed company, and they're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just gonna give out stuff like that. But I would be very surprised in the next even just this next 6 months, if they haven't announced at least one more region.
Mm. Where are they selling now? So you've got the Asia regions, you've got US. Is it all of Europe or is it how does that
I
work?
think it is most of Europe.
I
Yes, you've
I
got the
isn't it just
US,
I think wait, sorry,
Canada.
not it's not all of Europe, it's all of the European Union.
Yes.
And the UK as well, which is yeah. Um and I don't think they do any of like I think it's just European Union for Europe. I don't think there's anything outside of that segment. I could be wrong though. Someone will probably correct me. But there's
It's
still a
limited.
yeah. There's still a lot of places where they could expand to. I I don't know where they would go to next. Like, what seems like the next logical expansion point?
That's not something I would really understand. I mean, it would
Mm,
depend on, I guess, really like the country size more than anything, and
mm.
what sort of things they would buy. I mean, Valve, I'm sure, have that kind of research they're looking
Oh,
into. I
absolutely.
imagine.
I would like the next one to be Australia, but it's not going to be. Well, I've already I'm already accepting the fact that there's probably not going to be any announcement for Australia until a Steam Deck 2 happens. That's probably what's going to happen.
I think this year, before they announce anything like that, in fact,
Mm.
I'm kind of expecting their new VR headset to come before that, before any more
Okay.
regions for the Steam Deck. I think it's codenamed the Deckard, but
Okay.
that one actually sounds quite exciting for a couple of reasons as well, though. Not just because it's going to have, well, if go by the patents, a
Mm.
wireless mode, but it's
Mm.
going to be built on Linux as well, because what's going to be running that wireless mode, and in the patents, I'm sure it mentions directly Linux as well. So, and you look at GameScope,
Mm.
the thing that basically controls all the displaying in gaming mode on the Steam Deck, and you can use it on desktop as well. That's had some VR stuff added to it as well. So it's like, hmm,
I've
interesting.
not used VR in quite a while. The last VR experience I had was with a Vive. Yeah, I think it was a Vive a couple of years back. I don't even know what the state of VR is like at this point, or even what the state really is on specifically on Linux. Like, what? Not good.
Not good.
Not good.
No.
Okay.
I mean, my Valve Index is down there beside me, and
Mhm.
it's just there's so many problems because it's like they released it, and yeah, they do update Steam VR and stuff a fair
Sure.
bit, but it's like when they put it out, they didn't really bother with the Linux side of it all
Right.
that much, really, ever. And it's you can understand it now that the Steam Deck's out because a huge amount of just their complete hardware focus just shifted over to that. And
That
because
makes
it's
sense.
obviously massively more popular than VR anyway, well, it doesn't take a genius to know why they're focusing on that. But from all the leaks and patents and stuff that we've seen of the Deckard, I mean, I think it's going to be quite exciting as long as it's not as expensive as the Index was. That was a big barrier, I think,
How much was the Index?
because the Index is still £1,000 for the full
Whoo!
kit.
Uh, jeez, that okay.
And you've got to bear in mind, even when it was released, a bunch of like the tech, like the screens in it, was like years behind.
Mhm.
And like now, you see all the different types of screens and screen technology coming out, and it needs an upgrade, especially at that price. It's kind of ridiculous now, really.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Australia, like how much it cost to get one here. It's $2,000.
Yeah, it's a
Jesus.
big problem. It's a really big problem because the VR is amazing because I played through and completed Half-Life Alyx, and that
Oh,
was
nice.
one of like my top 5 all-time gaming experiences in my entire life.
Mhm.
It was just absolutely wild, amazing. And it wasn't just a showcase of VR, it was a showcase of how good Valve can be at making games as well,
Mhm.
which
When
everybody
they're a
knows,
games
but
company.
it was like their first proper full story game in a long time.
Mhm. Wait, what was the last game before that that Valve actually released?
Well, they also did Dota Underlords,
What the
which
hell is Dota Underlord?
so the auto chess became
Oh, it's
really popular.
oh
And
right, okay.
so Valve decided to jump in on that. They made Dota Underlords because, they don't want to jump in on the new IP for some reason. Um, and that's sort of started popular and then it just completely dropped off really fast and they just haven't bothered with it again. And I think before that, the last one was probably Artifact, their completely failed card game. So they haven't exactly had a lot of luck, really, when it comes to games.
Yeah, I wonder why Valve doesn't make games anymore. The mystery.
Although they've had loads of leaks lately, though, of like lots of old builds of their games.
A lot of game companies have that. I've seen the what is it? The rebuild project for Duke Nukem. That's been a really cool project to follow.
Yeah, I've watched a bit of that, and so one of the videos they released, one of their early trailers, did look pretty good.
I
And I
mm,
never really get the excitement behind these early releases, though, because it's
mhm.
like, well, the finished product's already out and amazing, so why do you care about what came before?
I get it with a lot of games. With Duke Nukem, it's a bit different because the finished game was never really the same game.
Yeah. In that case, I can understand that, but not for the Valve games, like early prototypes of like Left 4 Dead and Portal and stuff. It's like the games are amazing. So
I think it's neat as like a historical piece, but like people are always going to be like Easter egg hunting in games, things like that. So seeing what a game was like at some point, it's neat if nothing else. You can sort of see how a game evolves and got to the point where it became that finished product.
yeah, I was definitely more interested in there was a documentary that was done
Mm,
that showed off some like cancelled games that were being made, and that was
mm,
really cool. There was
that's
I think it was Ravenholm was going to be another Half-Life game, and that looked really interesting. So if anybody hasn't seen that, go and check it.
I. What if I what if I tell you I've never actually played Half-Life? That's
Why?
I've been
It's
meaning
so
to for
good.
so long. It's been sitting in my Steam library for years, and I've just never gotten around to actually playing it.
Disappointed in you, man.
I will play it at
No,
some
in
point,
all
but
seriousness, though, the original is good,
Mhm.
but if you are going to jump into it, you definitely want to get Black Mesa instead, which
Okay.
was the third-party developer took the original and sort of remade it, kept the story essence and so on, but it actually looks good by sort of modern standards as
Yep,
well.
yep. I do remember
Which
that
is
coming
another
out
really
a few
cool
years ago.
thing that Valve do is letting people make things like that. I still find that amazing.
I was gonna say, I remember it coming out a few years ago. It came out in 2015. It's a bit more than a few years ago at this point.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
No.
Oh, wait, no. Wait, it was no 2020? Wait, what? What is this?
It was in like early access
Oh, that makes
phases.
sense. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, my bad.
It was only
Um,
released in fall in 2020. Yeah.
okay, Wikipedia is lying to me. Cool. The Steam page has the actual date, March 2020. Okay, so it definitely was a few years back then, sure. But I do remember hearing about it way earlier, so I guess that's why that threw me off as well. Um, I will play it at some point. I'll probably end up streaming it at some point, just because people have been asking me to play it for a while. There's a lot of like classic series that I never really got a chance to play when I was younger. Right now I'm streaming God of War 1, like the original PS2 God of War. It's
The really originals, right? Okay. I
it's
thought you
very
meant
fun.
the newer, the like 2018 God of War, which
Oh,
I only just finished myself,
I'll be playing that
and
as
that was
well, but yeah, I've only recently played Devil May Cry as well. Because I didn't really get that many games as a kid. So there's a lot of these PS2 games and older games that I just never got a chance to play. Oh, what do you have there?
that's the good thing about
Ah,
these.
mmm.
I get to
Oh,
make
you
you
got
very jealous again.
the Switch skin for it.
Oh yeah, so Debrand,
Mm.
Dbrand sent
The
me
bread.
the Switch skin. So the only bits left on it are the left and right.
Mm.
Because the problem with doing skins, like I don't know if I can really show you right now because I've got this case on it from Debrand as well.
Uh-huh.
This is the kill switch case that they had to redesign because they made it with magnets, which is really really bad. But oh wow, just putting on this case has ruined it. But I don't. You can see like a piece of the corners gone up there,
Oh,
but
yep.
the skins are really really hard to get around corners properly because you end up with like lots of bumps
Yep.
that you can try and rub them out, but it's really difficult. Or you
Mm-hmm.
get like air bubbles, and you have to try and get them out. And I
Yep.
had the skin all across the back of it, and they've got like a fuzzy Nintendo logo that they've intentionally blurred on the skin as well, which is quite funny. Um, but you've got to heat it up, so you need a hairdryer to put the skin on properly
Right.
because you have to heat. Is it vinyl? I think it's vinyl
Whatever it is,
to
yeah.
then smooth it down properly. And I noticed there was bubbles on the back after I took the picture and posted it everywhere. So then I tried to take it off, but if you leave it too long, the actual like adhesive comes away from the vinyl and then it's ruined. So
Mm-hmm.
the only bits left on this one now, unfortunately, well, it still looks pretty cool in here though,
It does
I'll
look pretty
admit.
cool, yeah.
Hey, look, we can see you.
Ooh. Ooh. Wow, that's a massive delay. Jesus.
Um, yeah, but getting back to the point that
Mm.
playing classic games, like I was the same as you. I had basically nothing when I was a kid, but sitting there in bed, playing like a PlayStation Classic or something or a Nintendo Classic, you sat there and it's really good. You
I
should
could.
get one. Oh wait, you can't.
I'll get myself an Iron Neo.
Yeah, actually, you could probably
I
buy one
think I
from
actually
one of these
can.
different companies. To be fair,
Mm.
because I'm sure they all ship around the world.
Surely. Uh. Iron Neo Australia. Oh, yeah, they literally. It's okay. Yeah, they are selling, but it's also $2,100 to get uh, to get this one at
Yeah.
least.
See, that's one of the major problems with all these. Well,
Yeah.
other journalists like to
Uh
call them Steam Deck killers. And they keep doing this with like devices that only do streaming as well. And they're calling
Oh.
it Steam Deck killer. And it's like, well, it's not. It's either double the freaking price or it only does streaming. It's not killing anything apart from, well, it's going to make a hole in your wallet and you're going to forget about it after a couple of months.
Like Steam Deck, like I get the sort of marketing term, the the article title, but like, yeah, that's what it is. It's good for the clicks, I guess, for the first couple, but yeah, when you see how ridiculously priced that is, I think it's going to turn away sort of the vast majority of people. I think the streaming is probably less of an issue than the price. I don't think there's going to be anything that can possibly compete with Valve on the pricing. Just because Valve can do what traditional game consoles do, where they can sell at a loss or at like production cost, which no one else can do that because they will just go out of business.
The other major problem that I have with companies, and I'm not like being specific to any of them, this covers all of them, like Ioneo, GPD, 1X Player. There's a couple more. They keep producing these handhelds, which now some of them do have more powerful internals than the Steam Deck in some ways, but the Deck is kind of unique in the way it uses the components that it still can keep the performance level pretty close. But they make these devices, and then within a couple months, like they're announcing their next one and crowdfunding that, and they keep doing that because obviously they don't have the level of sales that someone like Valve will with the Steam Deck. And so my biggest problem with anyone buying from there is like, what kind of long-term support are you expecting when after you buy it a couple months after they've moved on to their next one?
Well, especially
Which I
sorry.
think will be good when SteamOS 3 actually releases to the public, so these other device makers can use it. And like the support burden is much more shared then because well, you've got all the people in the open source community hacking away on drivers and things all the time. And all the people will have to do is just update SteamOS to the next one and keep their devices going. But that's a long argument about open source and companies.
I don't know what the what the deal would be. I don't know if Valve has any specifics for people using that with devices they're shipping. I've not looked at licensing. I don't know if there's anything special with their distro. If that's, I'm sure that they've probably got some documentation somewhere about whether you can sell a device using SteamOS.
They have already said
Oh,
in previous interviews and things that one of the reasons that they are, looking forward to actually releasing SteamOS 3 is so that other people can use it, and that includes, other hardware vendors. Because it's another interesting thing about how Valve operates, that they're not seeing the likes of GPD and Ioneo and so on as competitors because, well, they're
they're all going to
not.
be on
And
Steam anyway.
if they can get them as well to install SteamOS, then it's just more money for Valve.
Well, either way, if they don't install SteamOS, where are you going to buy? What? Everyone's going to buy the games from Epic and Ubisoft? No, they're going to want to be on Steam because that's where their games are.
Yep. But the benefit, obviously, of SteamOS compared with something like Windows is the way they've made it and the way they've made the Steam Deck UI and all the built-in extra controls. It's all there ready made for it. Whereas with Windows, I've seen the kind of tweaks that people keep saying they have to do to get it to be workable properly on something like the Steam Deck. And frankly, it just sounds like a big pain in the ass.
Every time I see any announcement about like some Steam Deck update, some Steam Deck feature, anything like that, there is someone in the comment section asking about better Windows drivers every single time.
And every time I see an update as well, there's complaints. I see it on my own channel of people like, it broke my dual boot again. And it's like, well, at no point has Valve said it's supported. They made it specifically clear. They've given out the drivers as is, and that's it. And it's actually, that's another point that's quite interesting. If you look at the Steam hardware survey, when you look at the amount that's actually running SteamOS, you see it basically matches to the AMD's custom GPU
Yes.
in the hardware survey. And you can basically see that practically no one uses Windows on it.
It doesn't
So even though
surprise me.
it might, it's one of those things, again, you see a lot of these comments on Reddit and across YouTube and so on about people about talking about using Windows on it. But the stats already show, for once, they're in a minority on something. It's quite fun.
Well, like, I don't doubt there are people doing it. Like, I'm sure those people who say they're using Windows or trying to use Windows are doing it. But you got this perfectly, like, you're gonna have a worse experience using Windows, or like maybe you're gonna have better game compatibility, but you lose out on the SteamOS experience. You lose out on this thing that just works out of the box. It's all of this extra effort to not really get that much benefit. Like, the list of games that don't work under Linux and under SteamOS at this point is shrinking every single day. I think that's the thing that I'm most impressed about. How many games that I had never expected, like, not just working under Linux, developers actively saying, we are going to make sure this works on the Steam Deck. We have this update, we have this version, it works on the Steam Deck. Like, that's awesome. It is causing issues in certain cases where the game works on the Steam Deck and not on Linux. But that's a whole separate issue.
Yeah, that was one recently. It was Forespoken. It had something that they put in there specifically for Steam Deck, but the way they did it meant it wouldn't run on a normal Linux desktop or laptop. But you could get around it by setting Steam Deck equals 1 in the launch options for the game, and then it would go, oh, you're playing on a Steam Deck, I'll let you in now. But then you also have the likes of Ubisoft, who recently, they updated Ubisoft Connect, and when they did it, it broke basically all of their games that use Ubisoft Connect on Steam Deck and Linux desktop. But it just goes to show how reactive and Valve are being on the support. When, what was it, within a day they had it fixed. It was kind of amazing. But again, with Ubisoft, it's about the testing. They released the Division 2 amongst like quite a few of their other games on Steam, because they're coming back to Steam now. And I believe it was here again within one day. Even Ubisoft directly had fixed the Division 2 with the anti-cheat side to have it work. And it's amazing to see it's such a different world now, that you've got publishers like Ubisoft now going, oh, it's not working? Okay, well, we'll actually fix it. Oh, what? Like 2 years ago, no, you wouldn't have seen anything even remotely similar.
Yeah, I remember there were a lot of games. I think this was when the Steam Deck was first announced, like before it was released. There were a couple of games I was looking at where people went into the forums and were like, hey guys, Steam Deck's coming out soon. Is this game gonna work under Linux? Dead silence. All of, like, 10, 20 pages of comments about it. Dead silence. Not a single comment from the developers. Steam Deck comes out. Hey, look, guys, we've always loved Linux. We gonna make, like...
See, I see the opposite end of this, because I speak to developers and publishers hundreds per week, and sometimes, in thousands even, just because there's so many games and things happening in the background. And a lot of them are saying things like, yeah, we support the Steam Deck, but we have no support of Linux. And it's like a few times, just for fun to, have a little chuckle to myself, I'll reply and say, but the Steam Deck runs Linux. So what do you mean? What level of support are you meaning here? Are
Mhm.
you testing it? Are you just relying on Proton? You know, have you even clicked play on it? It's just weird now
Yeah.
that we've gone from absolutely no Linux support at all
Mhm.
to developers and publishers now emailing me directly like, hey, check this out. We've tested it's working on Steam Deck. Okay, cool. Anything about Linux desktop? No, sorry, we don't support Linux. Surely by now you should know that it runs on Linux.
Mhm.
But I get what they're saying. It's a single device, and that's what they're
Yeah.
testing. And that's one thing that we need to get over as well at some point.
I think.
Which,
Sorry. I was gonna say
yeah,
it's.
I'm hoping that the SteamOS release will help with stuff like that as well,
Mhm.
because you see a lot of comments about people wanting to use it on their desktop and so on.
Even though there have been issues with the Steam Deck and the general Linux support being technically different things, overall, it has been a better result on desktop Linux. Like, even with those weird edge cases like Persona 5 Royal, when that came out, Denuvo freaked out on desktop Linux, but the game worked just fine on Steam Deck. It was like a patch thing you did mess around with Proton. They got it fixed in like a day or so. But most games out there sort of trickle down out to general Linux as well. Usually, whatever they're doing, with the exception of like weird cases like DRM and anti cheat, most of the time getting it working on the Steam Deck will give you better results on Linux. Like when they're dealing with cutscenes, for example, like not using weird archaic codecs that cause issues on Linux. That's going to improve stuff on the Steam Deck, and that's also going to improve stuff for desktop Linux as well. Like most games at this point are just working fine on Linux, and this is awesome. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
well, that's because of Proton. It's all
yeah.
because of Proton. Because obviously it's not translating Windows calls specifically to a Steam Deck. It's translating it to what Linux understands. So basically all updates to Proton to make games work will benefit both Steam Deck and Linux desktop. Unless you have times like Forespoken when they put very specific Steam Deck stuff in there that doesn't really work properly, but then Valve's kind of worked around that already anyway. So I mean, it's stuff like that doesn't even stay a problem for long. And the Steam Deck has been out it's February, a year this month now.
Oh wow.
And I believe there's only 2 games that I know of that worked on Steam Deck, but not on Linux desktop. Only 2 that I actually know of notable names. There's probably a couple more, but the point is, it's a tiny fraction. So it's really not a problem.
Well, even then, the games that were like that, I don't know of any that weren't fixed. Like they were like that at launch. At launch, there was definitely a couple of games like that, but they got quickly addressed with Proton, unless there's something else that you're thinking of. Because the only ones that I know of are Forspoken and Persona 5 Royal. There might be something else though.
There's Rogue Company.
Okay.
That one worked really nicely on Steam Deck, but from what I'm looking at, it didn't work on desktop for some reason.
Right.
And
Okay.
I don't think that was ever fixed. I think it might still be an issue. But that was more, as I understand it, an issue with the anti-cheat specifically. So it's nothing really to do with the Proton translation layer. But again, anti-cheat is just one of those things that it's going to be a problem, unfortunately, for a long time.
I
It's,
I only played one multiplayer game, and it doesn't have anti-cheat, so I just never deal with the problem. The only multiplayer game I play is FF14. The only problem that game's had is the launch has been busted for a couple of years, and they finally got it. Finally, it's working, but just use the 14 launcher. It's not a problem. I've never had an issue with the launcher. You just never use the default launcher, and it's not a problem.
yeah, launchers are the big issue again as well. So anti-cheat. So DRM is not even a particularly big issue. Like Denuvo, It works absolutely fine.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it
Well,
freaked out with Persona
works. I
5.
don't know
Yeah.
if it actually does its job on
Yeah,
Steam
well.
Decks and Linux desktop or not. But I mean, it doesn't stop games from running.
Yeah,
The issue with Denuvo is I came across this recently when I was trying to fix, I believe it was Ghost Recon Breakpoint,
Mm.
and because I was swapping between different versions of Proton, I then couldn't play it on my desktop
Yep.
because it had detected 5 different variations and gone,
Yup.
nope.
Yup.
But then I went back to play it again on the Steam Deck, and it was like, nope. So then I had to change back to another different version of Proton that it remembered, and then it let me play. So I was like, oh god. So Denuvo is just a menace to real players.
Well, yeah,
Very annoying.
that was one of the issues that actually got in the way of people testing Persona 5, because it wasn't working for whatever reason. So you'd have developers who were getting 24-hour bans from the game because they were trying to test out Proton fixes. So they only luckily got it done on the first day because they were burning through developers who just kept getting banned.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, stuff like Denuvo is. I know why they do it. I don't agree with why they do it because piracy is a service problem. Well, that was said by, I believe, Valve's own Gabe Newell.
Yeah.
Who said piracy is a service problem. If you improve the service to a point where people want to use it, and they practically solved that with Steam over time anyway. But it's just one of those things that's really annoying. Along with launchers, like you had the EA app, like 2 or 3 times completely broke, and again Valve fixed it within Proton. Then Ubisoft Connect decided to do the exact same thing and break it. But it all leads back to my point earlier about these other companies making these devices, then moving on to the next one.
Yeah.
It's the level of support. Whereas with Valve, you basically know what you're getting. And you know, well, at least this point, it seems like it's going to be a long-term thing.
I can't see them dropping it. Like, I don't know what their future plans are, but I know they've said that they want this to be a multi-generational product. What that really means going forward, when we could possibly expect a Steam Deck 2, I wouldn't even begin to be able to guess when. But it seems like, especially now that it might not be the best-selling console of all time, but it's clearly sold well enough that Valve is going to continue it at least one more generation. Whether it goes on from there is sort of up to what happens at that point. But this is just a continuation of Valve's... When did they do Steam Machines? How many years ago was that?
Steam Machines was 2013, I believe.
That was... I'll never
It
get over the
wasn't
fact
long after Steam was actually released properly for Linux.
I'll never get over the fact that Steam Machines were the dumbest idea that Valve ever had. Because if Steam Machines happened when Proton happened, it would be a whole different story. Like,
Yeah.
how? Like, I'm sure that they're probably kicking themselves that they didn't do it. Like, they hadn't thought of those ideas around the same time. Because there was no world where Steam Machines were going to be this big thing. They didn't have the developer support. They were never going to get the developer support. As soon as I hit the scene, that's been the right way to do it from the start. Like, I know there's a lot of people out there who really wish we had, native Linux games and devs develop games with Linux in mind, but I don't care. I really don't. I just want the games to work.
I'm long past the argument.
I'm happy that the idea is dead at this point.
It's the people. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I understand why people want to see native Linux games being built. I understand that, and it does have its merits. But there's no user share to support the work involved in it. The only reason Valve can do it is because, well, they sell all of the games, so
Mhm.
it doesn't matter to them. They can burn through a bit of money to make more people buy more games. I mean, it's only good business for them. But when Proton's as good as it is, I mean, like you were saying, most games will run out of the box. It's happening more and more all the time. Compatibility is just improving all of the time. There's obviously known issues like some launchers and anti-cheat and so on.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when you've got Proton there, and it will just mostly go, you hit play, and then it's there. Shouldn't that be what people care about? Really?
Mhm.
The the issue is more that people should be worried about is support.
Right.
Not what it was compiled for,
Mhm.
not what coding language it's using, not the platform it was specifically built for. It's whether the developer is going to support it.
Mhm.
That is the only thing that should actually matter. Are they supporting it and does it work? That's it. That should be end of discussion, really, on that. But a lot of people will argue otherwise, and it's like, but you're talking about 1% of people of an already tiny 1% market that want native Linux only.
Yep. Yep.
It's a losing battle. If there's a day when the market share hits like, I don't know, 50%, then it's kind of like, right, so now maybe it's actually a discussion that's kind of important.
Look,
But
I
then
think
when you've also got Proton, which sometimes can even do Windows compatibility better than Windows itself, it's kind of like, well, hmm,
mm,
maybe targeting Proton directly is kind of a better idea in a lot of ways because they can fix things in it and have it fix whatever game is broken, and then
mhm.
that behavior will obviously fix other games as well.
Yeah.
And and it's open source. I mean, a lot of the time that people talk about like, oh no, I'm not going to buy it because it's not native to Linux. It's like, well, it's closed source anyway.
Mhm.
And by using Proton, you're using an open source project supported by one of the biggest companies in gaming.
Mhm.
And if something ever happened to them, well, it's open source, so other people can carry it on anyway. It's the more I've thought about it over the last year or two, just the more right now that it just makes sense just to not give a shit whether it uses Proton or it's native,
Mhm.
really. Oh, my screen's about to turn off. Stop
Well,
that.
I I look, if a dev wants to go and have a native Linux version, like I think let me just double check. I want to say Hollow Knight has a native Linux version.
Yes, it
Uh
does.
it does?
I'm
Yes.
not against native at all, of
No,
course. I mean, if a
like if
developer is going to do a native Linux version and support it, then
mhm.
I mean that's fine. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah. That's the point I was getting
Um,
at. Like if you're going to do a native Linux version and you're going to do it well, go ahead. If like there's, you like Linux, you want to support Linux, whatever. Go ahead and do so. But if the idea of having a Linux build is, it's just we compiled it for Linux, we didn't test it. Just
what's the
have
point?
fun. Yeah, exactly. I'd much rather the focus be on just even if it's just the focus on getting it working well on the Steam Deck, that's a much better result than throwing it out there and not caring.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the things that developers and this is happening a lot now actually, developers fixing stuff specifically for Steam Deck,
Mm-hmm.
which is obviously cool. But a lot of things that the developers are doing for it benefits everyone, like making sure text clarity is better, putting in better
Mm-hmm.
font resolutions, UI scaling, gamepad support, even optimizing the game performance for the lower end of the Steam Deck compared to, high-end
Mm-hmm.
PCs. All of these things benefit everyone,
Mm-hmm.
and anybody who complains about it is mad.
Earlier you were mentioning Forspoken. I've not played the game myself. I've seen a bit of a playthrough of it, and I've certainly seen the scene that everyone memed on, the I did that. You did that. I did. I've also been to listen to the because it's made by Luminous Production, Square Enix subsidiary. I've listened to the Japanese audio. It's considerably less cringy in the Japanese audio. For anyone listening, Frey is voiced by Jolene's voice actress, so it's a lot less annoying than Frey is in the English version. But I I knew the name Luminous Studio, Luminous Production, rung a bell, but I couldn't work out why until I looked at the other game they made. That was the subsidiary of Square Enix that made Final Fantasy 15, which was
Okay.
that was a video game that people know how I feel about. It's not a good game. It's really not.
I just don't get the price on it.
What is
In
what is
UK pounds, it is £64.99.
it?
And for what I've seen of it, it's just in absolutely no way does it seem like it's worth £64.99.
$114 in Australia. What? Wait, what? Wait, how much is Elden Ring? $90. It's like $30 cheaper to buy Elden Ring.
Yeah, and you will get probably a lot more enjoyment out of Elden Ring. Even if you don't like difficult games, you'll probably still like Elden Ring more.
Why is it so expensive?
I don't get it either. I don't understand why it's so expensive.
Okay. Look, it's from what I've seen of it, it seems like a remotely entertaining game. I wouldn't pay full price for it, but if it was like $30 on sale, $20 on sale, maybe it'd be worth it.
It seems like a £30-40 game max.
Mm-hmm. Square Enix doesn't really have anything right now. That's the problem, because a lot of the games they've released recently have sort of been I wouldn't say flops, but definitely not hits. Yeah, it's been a little bit since they've had like a big title, outside of Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
Because
I'm
Final
just
Fantasy
looking over
14
there.
14's basically the only thing keeping them afloat right now.
Because they put out Crisis Core,
Oh, yeah,
Final
they've got
Fantasy
yeah,
7 Reunion,
it's a Final Fantasy game though.
Tactics Ogre Reborn,
Huh?
Harvestella, and like I'm looking at even just going by the review count
Mm.
and like the amount of people online playing them, none of them have sold particularly well.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, I don't think they're having a great time right now, which is probably one of the reasons that Forespoken is so outlandishly expensive. I mean, that is just a ludicrous price.
Look, clearly someone's buying it. They might be returning it shortly after, but there are reviews on Steam, so people are buying it, even if it's just to mock the game.
I don't understand why anybody would waste their money to buy a game to mock it or to leave a bad review. And I know people do this.
I just scrolled down, releasing a game like that for 79 euros cheeky. It's one of the first reviews I see.
Yeah, it's not even remotely highly rated either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems it's very mixed right now. I'll play it one day, probably, maybe.
Someone just screamed outside my window. That's a bit concerning.
As you do.
Okay. Hello?
I don't know. Like, I don't. It's a good looking. Okay, no, if you ignore the character animations on the faces, it's a good looking game. because they're not great. They're really not very good. But like, you know, the world design, the effect animate, like the effects all look good. But that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But I don't know. Play whatever you like. If you enjoy the game, I don't care. Enjoy whatever video games you want to play. I'm gonna go play, you know, something else that's not Forespoken.
Did you ever actually use Stadia?
I didn't. I've not actually. Have I done any cloud gaming before? That's not no. Maybe like once or twice. I've not used Stadia. Definitely not.
But so, have you done any cloud gaming at all?
It would have been a couple of years since I'd last done some. I don't actively do any cloud gaming.
I was kind of sad
Mm.
in a way to see it go, but their business model, I don't know what they were thinking.
For anyone
It
who
was
forgot it, give people a bit of a recap on how they were doing that.
so everyone was kind of expecting like a Netflix of games sort of deal. And the technology that they used to stream games was actually, when it came out, probably the best. I mean, it was the most seamless way to do some cloud gaming. You literally open a browser window, click the play button, and you were there in game. And it was fast as well, which was a good thing. And like the input lag on it was good as well. But the problem was, Google had a history of canceling everything.
Yep. That's one way to
But
put
it
it.
wasn't just that. The biggest problem of it wasn't just the fact that everybody knows Google cancels everything eventually. It, apart from Android and their search engine, but everything else, you
For
know, is
now.
kind of But the business model was you could either pay a certain amount per month for their Pro account, which would give you access to 4K streams. Which is kind of like, okay, but you realize most people won't have a 4K screen anyway, but fine. And that would also give you a couple of free games to add to your account every month, which you could only access if you kept up your subscription.
Right.
But on top of that, they also had full price games that you could buy from them, but you would only have access from them. And so when they shut it down, obviously everybody lost access to it. But in their credit, I will give Google credit though, how they handled the shutdown of Stadia is kind of like showing up other companies who've shut things down in a really bad way, because they refunded practically everything.
I was really surprised when I heard
it was
that.
like, I think one of the only things they didn't refund was your Stadia Pro subscription.
That makes sense. That's fine.
But I mean, saying that,
Right.
Stadia controller, it is one of the most comfortable controllers.
I can't see you anymore.
Oh no, what have I done?
My camera likes to do that sometimes as well.
Is it going to level out?
That's a good question. Are we just going to be like this the rest of the time?
Hello?
Cover it.
Right.
That works, maybe.
I do this. There we go. Better?
Yes, we're good now.
Okay. Well, I won't do that again. Well, I need a new camera, I think. But the Stadia controller is without a doubt one of the most. If I just hold it here, it won't do it. Okay.
I don't have a Stadia controller. Here's a PS5 and a Xbox One controller.
Well, if we're going to be doing this, I mean, I've got a Steam controller.
Oh wow!
An Xbox controller. I can keep going for a while.
My favorite controller right now is the PS5 controller. I use this pretty much for everything where I have PlayStation prompts. But yeah, Stadia controller.
Yeah, it's really comfortable,
Mhm.
and so on all the refunds they did, you kept the hardware because obviously they don't want it. So you've got a free controller out of it. I got a
Mhm.
free Chromecast Ultra out of it, and
Mhm.
they refunded every game that I bought on there. I mean, I was like 200 quids up easily up.
Wow.
Yeah, and they even enabled the Bluetooth for the
Mhm.
Stadia controller, but they're only going to be doing that until I believe it's December this year, so be quick. Yeah, it was an example of how to shut down a service gracefully, I think.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
not many companies could refund to the level that they could because much like Steam and Google just basically print money really, don't they?
Yeah, well, the difference with a lot of other companies is if they start up a cloud streaming service, that's in many cases going to be their entire business. Google, Stadia going out of business is sort of just like a decimal point on their tax return. Like that's not a big deal to them. They don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah,
Um
they probably got some sort of tax write-off for it. In fact, of course they would. They've refunded it, so it's not revenue for them. So it actually probably didn't really cost them all that much when you think about it. But they were up against GeForce Now, which obviously
yes.
just on kept getting better and better. And with that, you're playing games you already own from other
Mhm.
services. There was just no way that buy full price games from us and you'll only ever have it from us. Is that kind of model is just not going to work. There's no way.
I think one of the problems that Google also had is not only is Google really good at killing things off, they're also really bad at marketing new things they have. I I've said this a couple of times before, but what they should have done is on YouTube, under a video where it's like, hey, this is the game in this video. If that game is available on Stadia, they should have a play on Stadia button right next to it.
They planned that and they planned to have it in their search results as well. And they never did it. There's just too many missteps.
Like,
It was never going to live very long.
I'm, I'm, I'm very curious to see where cloud gaming goes into the future because I think as much as the hardcore elitist gamers like, oh no, you gotta play it on hardware, only ever on your own computer, we can never have cloud gaming. For a lot of people out there, I think it actually is a really compelling idea, like especially right now where buying even mid-tier hardware is prohibitively expensive. I think there is absolutely a place for cloud gaming for most games. It's certainly an issue with anything that's like high action and requires very like low input latency. But there's a lot of other games out there where, or just if you're fairly casual at the game, where it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. That was one of the things about the Steam Deck
Mm.
is about the price of hardware. To build a full desktop, including the monitors and everything else, your speakers, your graphics card, your CPU, RAM, is massively expensive nowadays
Mm-hmm.
to get good performance out of things. And you also had all the chip shortages as well. Whereas, I mean, you just buy this.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to, go make it bigger, you've got all the different docks from either Valve or JZux, Ivola, and loads of other companies who keep emailing me that we've just made a brand new dock for the Steam Deck. Do you want to take a look? No, because I mean it's exactly the same as every other dock.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can hook it up to a monitor, which is like what I do all the time. I've got a dock here. I've got a dock in my bedroom. I've got a dock downstairs in my living room. So if I want to, I'll just dock it in there and play it on a big screen. It's happy days. And the thing with cloud gaming as well, I mean, it is actually quite good on devices like this. Because not only is it not taking up drive space, but certain bigger games won't work very well on either the Steam Deck or one of these other, devices coming out. Whereas it might actually work quite well streamed. And because the streaming services are getting so powerful nowadays, the input lag is like practically not there. I mean, yet you're always going to have input lag. I mean, even a mouse connected over USB to your PC has some form of input lag. I mean, it's just that's the way of things. But there were comparisons actually some time ago done between things like Xbox, GeForce Now, Stadia, and so on. And I believe they did it again with the latest upgrade to GeForce Now, and it was showing like the latency was better than some consoles. And it's like, well, if it's getting to that stage, yeah, cloud gaming is definitely something that will be good for a lot of people. It's all about the price and understanding in some of them that you don't own the games, like Xbox cloud gaming. You don't own any of those games, and games like Netflix will go in and out of it, which is interesting because Xbox have basically made Netflix for games with their cloud gaming service. Which, if I'd say the problem is, I have 2 Steam Decks and I can never remember what on which of them, and I don't know if I've got it on here or not because I was just gonna demonstrate.
I forgot this service even existed.
There's so many different.
I think.
Nope.
I think there's 2 models here that make the most sense, and neither of them is what Stadia was doing. You've got the Netflix for games, and you've got what Nvidia does. Those, I think, are the 2 models that make the most sense for cloud gaming.
Yeah.
Maybe some will come with something different over time.
There's no other model that makes any kind of sense at all.
Yeah, buying like, $120 for Forespoken, like that would make no sense if you just have it on that one service.
Oh, there we go. Right.
Oh, okay.
So
yes,
this is a Linux device. Okay, SteamOS 3, and I'm now doing Xbox cloud gaming.
Ooh.
So it should now be loading up if I've done this right. Fortnite. Oh, there you go. There's Fortnite loading up, and I can just do that over Wi-Fi on a Linux device. I mean, it's like it's crazy what you think the internet and just technology as a whole can enable you to do, and especially for companies like Epic Games, where they just refuse to actually support Linux, really, don't they?
Yup. I don't know what the deal is with Epic, because what like the CEO's been like, yeah, Steam Deck, great device, it looks so cool. We're not bringing Fortnite to it. It's not gonna happen. Definitely not.
Yeah, it's a lot of market share problem again.
Sure, yeah.
Like it goes back into the whole native Linux versus Proton. I mean, it's always going to be the same argument. Companies like Epic, wow, they're spending so much money on all the exclusive stuff anyway that they're not going to worry about paying more to have this tiny platform on it. But for me, it's useful because, right, here we go. Okay. So I'm actually in a match, okay, on it right now. And I mean, it's not the most scientific test, but if you see, I mean, the input seems okay to me.
It seems entirely playable.
And that's over Wi-Fi. So it's kind of like, Seems pretty good. So I could just sit here and I mean, to be honest with you, right?
Mm.
I've got a PlayStation 4, I've got a Nintendo Switch, I've got an Xbox Series X, I've got 2 PCs, I've got 2 Steam Decks, and I'm sat here now, right?
Mm.
And I'm playing Fortnite on my Steam Deck on Linux through Wi-Fi, and I couldn't tell that this isn't, and natively running.
Mm.
It's the input feels that amazing.
As
If
something,
you
I'm
excuse me,
sure.
I'm gonna have to play this for a while now. That's the problem with games like this.
Yeah.
It's just they're so easy to get into, and you find yourself kind of in a hole on them.
Uh-huh.
There was I got like that with Dota 2. Have you ever played that? I've got over
Not for a long
500
time.
hours in that, and at some point I had to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Enough is enough. I can't do this anymore. Like I've got to move on to something else. But then it's also the Dota 2 community is toxic as hell.
Yeah,
I mean,
that'll do it.
just look at it, look. Right, I have to do it where I can see what I'm doing as well.
Uh-huh.
It's Fortnite on a Linux handheld, and I mean I'm sat there and I can't tell that it's not doing it. So right, is that jump right? Test the jump speed. Ready? Jump, jump. I mean it's literally as I press it.
Yeah.
That's a really good latency.
I'm sure that if, like, you were, used to playing on a 165 hertz display, used to playing locally, all that, like, and you were really, really into the game, there would be a difference. But if you're just, casually jumping into a game, it seems fine, at least from what I can tell.
Yeah, and for someone like me as well, I mean, I don't particularly want to use things like Windows and so on, and I mean that can just enable me to hop in and have a couple games with friends, and then hop out and do something else.
Mm-hmm.
It's and that's one of the things that kind of bugs me about the whole native only argument, or if you're a Linux fan, it's the only thing you're allowed to, the zealot behavior, fanatics. There's always been a problem in the Linux community of having people like that. But yeah, for people like me, I mean, if I was going to do that, I would end up cutting myself off from practically all of my friends and all of the games they play.
Yeah.
Just because you use Linux and because you're a fan of it and you're a fan of open source doesn't mean you shouldn't or can't use anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can, to be honest, you can pry stuff like Fortnite from my cold dead hands, because I will keep playing it and I will enjoy it. I mean, I mean, this is such a stupid game, though. I mean, I've got a pickaxe that is one of those stretchy balloons that you make shapes out of, and hit things, bubbles as I do it, and I just find it hilarious. So.
The only time I don't play Fortnite, the only time I ever pay attention to it is when some random character is added and it looks dumb. Like back when there was like the Dragon Ball event and people were running around as Vegeta with a shotgun. Like, okay, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Or there was the Naruto event and people would. It was just like gun no jutsu.
I spoke to someone about this actually, and I'm not sure where it was. It could have even have been with you the last time I spoke to you. And it did kind of make me feel a bit weird, like, and I didn't like it seeing stuff like a character who's as iconic as Goku. I mean, I have Dragon Ball tattoos on my arm.
I didn't notice.
And he's in Fortnite running around with K, and it's like it's so wrong. So wrong. Yeah. But I mean that's kind of one of the things that people are like. I'm pretty sure Tim Sweeney from Epic is going on about stuff like the metaverse. I think he's pretty big on that, isn't he? And that's what it is, and that's some of what it is. It's going to be everything and everything.
Yeah,
is kind of one of the things of it. But I don't know. Just Goku from Dragon Ball running around with K does not.
Well,
did right
look,
with me saying
they've
that.
kind of messed with every generation of anime fan. There, you've got the fans of Dragon Ball, then you got the slightly younger fans who are fans of Naruto, then you got the younger fans who are fans of My Hero Academia. Everyone gets to be annoyed about the anime characters in there.
Yeah, although I must admit there is something funny
Hmm.
about being Master Chief from Halo and seeing him doing like little dances and stuff and going like
Yeah,
this.
yeah. Look, I
Yeah,
as dumb as it is, clearly Epic has got themselves something that is going to be like it's going to be a cultural icon for years into the future. Even if Fortnite isn't like it's not the thing that everyone's talking about like it was back during when it first came out during the first season. It's clearly still this massively important game, even if it's something that a lot of people may not be paying attention. Like that's one of the weird things about the internet. There can be these subcultures that have millions and millions of people in them that you don't even remotely pay attention to. Like
yeah,
that's this thing you get with this connected world we have with the internet. There are so many people that even if something's incredibly popular, you could just not be aware of like at all what's going on with it.
yeah, and I think it's similar to things like Minecraft
Mm,
back in
mm.
the day. You know, when that was sort of first coming out, you couldn't go anywhere without someone mentioning it, and then it completely fell off like that. I mean, but it's still one of the biggest games in the world,
Exactly.
and Fortnite is exactly the same. You know, it's not at that level anymore, but I mean, Epic are making millions and billions out of it,
Well, they wouldn't be
and it's
able to.
literally how they're bankrolling Epic Store
They
is with
wouldn't have
Fortnite. Like,
partnerships with Dragon Ball and Naruto and all that if they weren't massive.
yeah, man, imagine coming up with the gold mine like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he sleeps on a bed of money, I'm sure.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure. Look, I'm sure they could if he really wanted to. They have the money to get it working just fine on the Steam Deck. That's not gonna happen though. Until Epic has their own like handheld, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, see, the problem that I have there is
Mm.
that Epic own Easy Anti-Cheat. It's their
Yes.
own software that they're not turning on to
Yep.
have it work, locally, installed locally on
Hmm.
Steam Deck and Linux desktop, and it's just. And I saw some of the tweets that he was doing, and in fact, I'm pretty sure I reported on it as well on the website.
Hmm.
That he didn't even have real faith in his own software
Yeah.
to
Ah, I know that.
be
Yeah, I know the ones you're
protected.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
He was worried about like custom kernels or something. I think that it was like you can't be certain about. Shit, whenever I probably won't be able to find it.
yeah. It was
Um,
to the effect of he's not certain that they could protect it against custom kernels, but I mean it's nothing's secure by obscurity.
wait, is this it?
And that's one of the problems I have with stuff like Easy Anti-Cheat and Battle Eye and so on. I mean, you had no idea what they're really doing,
Wait,
and
here we
that's
go.
how they're apparently secure.
Found it. So someone asked about Fortnite. He said Fortnite. No, there's a big. This is from February 7th, 2022. There's a big effort underway to maximize easy anti-cheat compatibility with Steam Deck. Someone asked why not, asking about why not Fortnite. We don't have confidence that we'd be able to combat cheating at scale under a wide array of kernel configurations, including custom ones. With regard to anti-cheat on the Linux platform, supporting custom kernels and the threat model to a game of Fortnite size, someone had deleted the tweet in there. I guess someone asked him along the lines of, so easy anti-cheat just you don't trust that it would work under Linux, but like then you're selling it to people to use under Linux,
And-
like
the problem with what he was saying was largely true, though. I mean, in all fairness,
No, it
Fortnite
makes
is a
sense.
game that has a scale like
Yeah.
practically nothing else on the amount of players on it, and obviously the amount of people that are probably trying to hack it and cheat on it and so on. So protecting something like that is obviously vastly different than a game that only has, say, 100,000 players a day versus
Sure.
a couple million. So, I mean, you can see what he's saying on that, but then again,
The way it's phrased, it comes off like he's sort of it comes off like he's not trusting the product that he's trying to sell.
yeah, there is certainly an element of that as well. But thanks to technology and streaming and to sing, it's so weird to sing Microsoft praises, but I mean, Microsoft had done a genuinely good job with Xbox Cloud, and in fact, that was one of the sort of things that I did not have on my bingo year. Was Microsoft have done like repeated announcements about Steam Deck compatibility for various games. They did their own official guide to get Xbox Cloud working on the Steam Deck. They're pushing Edge with that, but you don't need Edge, just use Chrome. But it's kind of like you've now got companies like Microsoft talking about playing their games platform. It's money. Money is what talks.
Yep.
And we finally have something that is pushing Linux to the masses, that even Microsoft are like, here's how you play our stuff on it. It's going to be an interesting year, that's for sure.
Yeah,
we're only in February. Oh my god.
I just hope that whatever happens, we start seeing more interest in general. Like I don't expect that to happen, but I would like to see more interest in general Linux. Like, not just, hey, we've made sure it works on the Steam Deck. Like, hey, we've also tested it at least on like Ubuntu. Like, if whatever, it doesn't work on everything else, but like we've, it works on the Steam Deck. It works on Linux. It's still doing it through Proton, but I can't see that happening. I would like it. It's a pipe dream, but
well, that is going to come with time, and I think because the Steam Deck is out there now, it's got the full desktop mode on it, and all the time of people like, this finally got me to appreciate Linux kind of thing. Once SteamOS 3 releases to everyone, I think things will change a little bit there as well, even if people don't necessarily stick with it.
Sure.
Going and finding another distribution maybe, or just people understanding more and more about Linux is obviously always going to be a good thing. And one of the things, in fact, that Valve said about releasing SteamOS 3 was about people, as in like us normal people, not just vendors putting it on their machines, but about people building their own machines with it, as in making your own little Steam machine up against your TV with SteamOS on it. There's going to be a big Tinker community around it. I mean, you've probably already seen some of the stuff that people are making and building with the Steam Deck. It's blows my mind every day what people are doing. It's become this amazing device. Like, it's like when stuff like the Game Boy and so on came out. It's like kind of well, not kind of. I mean, it has revived the handheld gaming industry, because you had PlayStation. They had the Vita and so on. And that was a much loved handheld by a lot of, Sony fans. It's basically the Vita 2 in a way, the Steam Deck as well.
Well,
but all of this on
handheld
Linux,
sort of came back with the Switch, to be fair. Like, that's when they really started to gain interest again.
Yeah, specifically on like the PC handhelds.
Oh, sure. Okay, fair enough.
It's just amazing to see what everyone's doing with it. There was, in fact, because JSOX did a clear back case for it recently. There's a post that's doing the rounds on the Steam Deck Reddit right now, where somebody's just like stuck a load of LED, like RGB LEDs on the inside of it. So like, they'll hold it up and be like all colorful. There's so many cool hardware things that people are doing because it's not just people learning about Linux and like how actually quite good it is nowadays, you know.
Yeah,
It's also people tinkering on the hardware side. Really fun to see.
I think they definitely picked a good time to do the Steam Deck, because if it was a few years earlier, Proton was definitely good like a couple of years ago, but now it's in an, I wouldn't say like anywhere near perfect, but it's in a considerable better state, and the problems that we have now are, for the most part, not like fundamental problems that are affecting a wide array of games. Like I've got all my games on Steam, just categorized into their Proton DB rating, just so I can easily find stuff. But my library, without ever putting any thought into like whether a game works on Linux, it just is mostly in a good state, and it's been like that for a while. I think, actually, going back to the thing about general Linux support, I think one thing that could possibly change that is not if people are using SteamOS on their own devices, but like on their own devices they're selling, but if these other non-SteamOS Linux-based operating systems, like what Ioneo is doing, if things like that start gaining any attention, because if that has any reasonable market share, then devs are going to want to support that as well. So now you're thinking about Linux as more of a category of things rather than just Linux as what Valve is doing. I think that might cause a change. I don't know if that's really going to pick up considering how expensive those devices are. But
the thing about it again is it goes back to right now Proton and how fixing up things in that is fixing up, you know, tons of games constantly. With the Ioneo devices and them doing Ioneo OS, their own Linux system, when you go through like their announcements on it, they're talking about Proton as well. So it's like, yeah, there's going to be a lot more focus on Proton as time goes on from developers as well, because you are going to have more devices shipping with it. It's as simple as that, because Valve have proven it's popular.
Yeah.
And that Linux can work and be a good gaming platform. I mean, a lot of us already knew this already, but this is a mass-produced device going out to masses of people. And a lot of them, you know, it's the first time they've ever used Linux.
I want to know where this goes in, like, because we can obviously be like, hey, this is what's happening right now, but where this sort of leads to in like 5-10 years from now, like if things keep going in the direction they're going, if the Steam Deck, you know, gets worldwide sales and anyone can buy it if they want to, maybe we have a Steam Deck 2. I'm very curious to see where the idea of Linux gaming is at that point. Like, if we do see, you know, because right now Linux is still less than like Mac OS in the market share. If it keeps going in this direction, I wouldn't be surprised if it just overtakes that. We're not going to overtake Windows anytime in the near future, maybe anytime in the long-term future, but I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, 5-10 years from now, Linux is a second legitimate PC platform to play games on.
3 years max.
3 years max, you say?
3 years, and at least going by for gaming, say by the Steam survey, I reckon in 3 years' time it will have overtaken Mac easily. Especially with the price of Mac as well. I still don't understand how people are buying them up in such quantities. Like,
yeah, I have a like a $300 smartphone from 5 years ago. So like, I'm definitely not the Apple audience.
well, The problem with what I've just said is that I've got an iPhone. So I was a huge kind of skeptic of Apple stuff for so long, but then I bought the iPhone was a really good deal, and I bought it, and I actually really enjoy using it. So who am I to judge
Yeah,
anything really?
they make good user interfaces. Like there's for all the shit you can give Apple for the way they handle right to repair, the way they lock down their systems, they make good devices. Like I get it. I just don't want to spend that much.
That's one of the things I actually quite appreciate from Epic Games
Mm.
and Tim Sweeney is how hard they are fighting companies
Mm.
like Apple to open up. They're doing it to completely self-serve their own interest. But at the end of the day, if they manage to get them to push to open up to extra payment providers and extra app stores and allow you, especially on iPhones, because on Android you have F-Droid,
Yeah.
which you can download as a completely separate package manager store. Imagine if you could get something like that on iPhone, it would just be kind of amazing. And that'll be hopefully the end result of Epic's fight with them.
Well,
So that would be really interesting.
on Android,
Because
there's also the
there's probably way more than just
well,
F-Droid for
no
Android, but it's the only one I actually know.
what's the one that Amazon had on their Fire devices that I'm forgetting the name of?
They just have like their own Amazon App Store, don't they?
I don't know if it was called whatever it was called, but yeah, those are the sort of the major ones. Obviously, Google, F-Droid, and Amazon's thing, but no one uses out. Like, obviously, there's the FOSS people that use F-Droid, but like, that's pretty much it. Like, it's not a thing that anyone else really cares about.
Right.
Mm.
And so it's not eating into anyone's bottom line, really, when you think about it, because they're using all these external things are going to be a minority, which again will happen to Apple. Obviously, they're afraid because it's going to affect their bottom line. And if you look at their very most recent revenue reports, like this massive chunk of their revenue comes directly from the App Store, and that's why they don't want to allow people to, sideload whatever they want on it. But it just shouldn't be allowed. As simple as
No, it
that.
shouldn't be.
No matter what you buy, if you've bought it and it's yours, there should be nothing on it that makes it seem like actually you're only kind of leasing it from these people. You should, no matter what device you own, you should be able to load whatever the fuck and repair it.
Yep.
For anything.
Yeah, but look, I think one of those battles might be a little bit easier to win than the other one. I don't know if they're gonna make it easy. And actually, to be fair, they do have their repair program where it costs, and it costs more than just buying a new device. In some cases, they'll sell you an entire motherboard and like they'll lease you the tools to repair it and.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, they started doing some more stuff within the last year. I think it towards the end of last year. I think it was announced that they'd sort of like opened up the repair stuff a bit more for people.
That rings a. I don't know if it was around that. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember when it was happening.
I have to hand it to Apple's customer care, though. To be fair, I've got the AirPod. But I shouldn't do that near the camera, should I? It's not going to focus. These are the Pro 2, so like the very latest ones that you can get. And I was having problems where they kept dropping out basically, and it was really annoying. So I went into my local Apple store, explained the situation, and 10 minutes later I walked out with a brand new pair.
Wow.
So I mean, yeah, I was quite. And in fact, even weirder though is the night before, on an iPhone, for people that don't know, you can do like a dedicated support on your phone, and they will message you through iMessage personally to talk you through different things that you can try.
Okay.
And that was really weird. Like, but Yeah, their customer support was top notch. I really can't complain about that.
Actually, on the note of wireless earbuds, here's what I have as wireless earbuds. This is a pair of Jaybird X2s from like
Oh, in fact,
5 years ago.
I had something similar to that actually, and it had just like a band
Yeah,
that
yeah,
went
yeah.
around your neck.
I've considered getting some like actual wireless earbuds, but my Jaybirds, they work. Yeah, the battery's very, very short now. Maybe lasts like 3 hours, but lithium batteries, all that.
I used to hate wireless stuff, but
Yeah, I was
they've just gotten so good
I was
that
all on board the
yeah,
I don't take away my headphone jack, but yeah, now you actually have very convenient options.
there's
And
loads of them. I mean, you can pick up a pair that look exactly like that for like £30,
mm,
$30, and they'll give you a pretty reasonable sound quality
mm,
and a
mm,
couple of hours battery life. It's amazing how it's like any technology though, over time as more and more of it's produced,
mm, mm.
it's supposed to get cheaper, but
Unless it's a
for some
GPU right
things it
now.
doesn't.
GPUs are a fun one right now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Honestly, like a big part. I don't know how much. Like, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know how much of Nvidia's pricing at this point is existing, continuing silicon shortage, and how much is Nvidia, wanting to make as much money as they can.
Uh, so the Nvidia, like all hardware companies, do as many tricks as they can to get the most money out of people.
Mm-hmm,
This is
mm-hmm.
what I always tell people: a company, no matter who they are, no matter how much of a fan you are, whether it's Valve, whether it's Epic Games, whether it's Nvidia, AMD, it doesn't matter. They're not your friend. They're there to make money out of
Yep.
you, and it's as simple as that. You can be a fan of them, but you need to understand they're not a fan of you. They want your wallet. They
Yep.
want your fucking money, and that is it.
Yeah. No,
Anyway,
I
yeah.
fully agree. I fully agree there. Oh god. One thing I did want to talk about is I'm really, this is a complete topic shift. I'm really surprised with how much attention Dwarf Fortress has been getting.
Yeah, that is kind of amazing actually, because they just released their monthly report and they had over 7 million in January,
Yeah.
which is absolutely freaking nuts when you think about, I mean, you look at it and graphically compared to, everything else that's coming out nowadays,
Hmm.
and even with their new graphical tiles that they've put on it, it doesn't really look modern in any shape
No.
or form.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, and like even the animation system and stuff in the new Dwarf Fortress is, well, there's basically not really any animations from what I played, but it's it's fully deserved though, fully deserved, because I mean they've been hacking away at making Dwarf Fortress for many,
Hmm.
many, many years for free as well. Obviously, they took donations and so on, um, and then released it on Steam, and now they're millionaires.
Yeah. Like, I've
It's amazing.
I've been
But
hearing from
I
people who,
will point out
yes.
before you mention anything else that while it's not a bad thing,
Uh-huh.
I do think that one of the reasons that it's sold so well and why a lot of indie developers can't reproduce that form of success.
Hmm.
Well, for the two reasons: one, it was already a massively well-known, and
Hmm.
two, I don't know the specifics of it, but I know at least one of the two people was sick basically, and like needed hospital bills and so on. And I think that has played a part of it,
Hmm.
because like a big portion of it will be generosity from people not necessarily people normally buying it to play it, if that makes
Right.
sense. I
No,
think
that
there is definitely a big element to that as well.
no, that definitely makes sense. But what I was going to get is because I had this perception in my mind before this came out that Dwarf Fortress, even though it was like a thing that people knew about, nobody really cared about it outside of the very, you know, the greybeards that have never left their house that only play Dwarf Fortress. But I have heard like just regular like normie streamers that I would never have expected to talk about Dwarf Fortress talk about wanting to play it now that this graphical update is out. Because they've heard about the game. They're like, they know what Dwarf Fortress is, and they know it's this like crazy complex thing, but that's all they know about it. I think
mean,
the devs absolutely deserve the attention they get, because this is
it's still complex as hell, even though it has an actual user interface, a proper user interface,
yeah.
and it's still ridiculously complex. It's
I
one of those storytelling games, isn't it?
Well, I've not actually played Dwarf Fortress, but I do know it goes to like ridiculous levels of detail where like it keeps track of like every tooth in the dwarf's mouth, just like insane ridiculous detail that no one in their right mind cares about, but is there because that's what the game's supposed to be.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't played a huge amount of it because it's so complex and it's just something of that level is not something that I can sit down and relax with.
Right.
If I was going to do something like that, it would be more RimWorld. That's definitely on a similar level, and RimWorld a lot of inspiration from Dwarf Fortress, but I can click around in it a lot more and things move. Yeah, for me, just personally, Dwarf Fortress, even with new releases, just still has too much of a retro feel for it.
Well, it's still Dwarf Fortress. Like, it...
And so, yeah, fair play. They've done a good job.
I actually have heard from some of the people who are like, you know, the greybeard hardcore Dwarf Fortress players, never played a single other video game in their entire life, who aren't happy about the new UI because they're like, they change stuff, the new UI is slower in certain things. Like, these are people who've never played a single other video game besides Dwarf Fortress. They know it, like, in and out. But it's clearly made it a lot more approachable. And that's a big part of the reason why it got so much attention. Not only the fact, obviously, the medical bill stuff definitely did help, but the fact that if you want to play Dwarf Fortress, it gives you something that looks like a video game now. And, you know, most people aren't going to go and sit down and play, like, an ASCII game. Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Even if...
the world has moved on, and it's as simple as that. Really.
Yeah. Even if...
it's a long time coming.
Even if the art, like, the game is simple, it does the job. It gets the message across in a way that it looks like a video game now. Which, you know, 7 million. Yeah, they've done well. And I hope that it keeps going well into the future. I don't know what to talk about. I've got a bunch of other things on this list. But let's see. What should we go to? You know what? I did see you mentioned Dead Space on Gaming on Linux. I don't know if you play how much you played of the remake.
I've played a couple of hours of it, yeah, and it is fantastic.
I had never actually played Dead Space before the remake. My housemate got me to go and play it with him. Maybe this is not a popular opinion. Uh, I can see
That to
why.
offend a lot of people.
I'm going to, absolutely. I can see why it's a very popular franchise and why it's a very popular game. I didn't like it. I There's a lot of things about it that I think are really cool. Like the way the plasma cutter thing works, you like turn it, you cut off the limbs of the enemies. I just I it's a game that's way too slow for me to find any enjoyment from, because I don't find any of the jump scares like scary, because the entire all the horror in the game is about let's make the audio as loud as possible. Like
No, there's a lot more to it
I'm
than
sure
that.
there's more to it, but from what I've
It's
played,
just
like
the general atmosphere of it
mhm,
that is
that's
scary, really.
that's what he was telling me as well.
No, it's good though. The remake is genuinely good. I mean,
Mhm,
it's faithful in that it is very similar to the original
mhm,
because it is a remake, but there's just loads of nice updated touches on it that really it's already the best way to get back into it, you
mhm,
know. And it's just a genuinely good horror game.
mm. No,
And now it runs nicely on Steam Deck and
mm.
Linux desktops as well.
Like,
So
as much as I might not enjoy it, I can absolutely understand. Like all of the pieces I saw of the game, like it's clearly a really good game that is not at all my style of game. Like
yeah, yeah.
the atmosphere, I get it. It makes sense why you would enjoy that. I think as I said, I think the way the gun, like the first gun you get is really cool. Like and like all the whole cutting off limbs thing, really cool idea. Um, I maybe I'm just really dumb, but any of the zero gravity segments, my brain just falls apart, and I I'm just like
Yeah.
yeah.
Any game that sends me in sort of a 3D zero G environment, my brain is kind of like, I want to turn my head up, see where I'm going.
Yep.
Yeah, it's quite annoying.
Because I didn't get super far through the game when I was playing it. I got back to the ship and then went off to do the next thing. Whatever it was. So still like an hour or two into the game. So like still I don't know how long the game is, but still relatively early on. But I don't know. Maybe at some point I'll go back and play it. The other problem, the other problem I had is that we were playing with controllers, and I don't play shooters with controllers as well, so that also was a mess for my experience.
See, that's not a problem for me. I've always had consoles, so I mean, I feel really at home
No,
either
I
with
used to,
like the
I
Steam Deck or with the gamepad.
I used to play Call of Duty on PlayStation. Like, I used to be. I'm not gonna say good or great. I used to be competent at playing shooters on console. I'm not anymore. The last time I was really actively playing a shooter on console was Black Ops 2. So a while
Wow, that's
ago.
quite a while then, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're into any sort of like story
Mm.
type game, have you seen Detroit Become Human?
I know of the game. I've not played it.
So it's the same people that made. In fact, I think practically all of their games are very similar. Beyond Two Souls,
Right. Yep.
Heavy Rain.
Yep. Oh, it's Quantic Dream.
Uh,
Yeah, Quantic Dream. Yep.
yeah, I've started. I'd say started. I'm a couple of hours into it now, and that is a genuinely interesting game. And the way they've done it is really interesting as well. The story
Mm-hmm.
is a bit like I, Robot, the Will Smith film, in a way, robot uprising and all that, and like one and every kind of thing. I mean, but there's quite a few things that have done that, to be fair. But I like the idea that I can go through and you have these different decisions you've got to make.
Mhm.
And when you've completed a chapter, it will flow through like this chart of the decisions you made. And you'll see like your decisions go down here, and there's like decisions going along there that you didn't make that could go somewhere completely different. And you can
Okay.
lose characters in it as well if you choose certain decisions. And it's it's really, really interesting.
That
I
does
really
sound
like that
really
style of
cool.
game.
Like,
Yeah,
okay.
so if people like story games,
Mm-mm.
that's a good one.
I don't want to make it seem like I don't like slow games. Like there are some games that are like, you know, one of my favorite games was Journey on the PS3. That's an incredible game. Um so, you know,
Yeah.
I will enjoy something that is slow or where, you know, it's not actiony, there's nothing really happening. I don't know what it was about. I don't know what it was about Dead Cells that just Dead Space, different game. Dead Space that just I don't know. Maybe it's that when I play a shooter, I like my shooters to be, you know. I look the last shooter I got really into was Doom, and Doom is Doom.
I think maybe that's where the issue is. It's not. Yes, you shoot and stuff in it, but it's not primarily a shooter.
Yeah,
It's
that
a
yeah
story horror that gives you a couple of weapons to dismember
yeah
freaky
yeah yeah
creatures with. It's not supposed to be a full-on shooter.
yeah. No, I get that. Like it make I get it. It's just it's not for me. It's not for me.
If you don't like, well, okay, so you don't mind slow-paced games
No,
then.
there's a lot of slow-paced games that
So,
I was a fan of. Yeah.
Death Stranding, have you seen or played that?
I've seen it. Yeah, I've not played it.
Okay, I completed finally the director's cut.
Hmm.
And, it was actually genuinely amazing. I mean, you are basically a postman in the future,
Hmm.
and like 90% of the game is you running across the countryside.
Yeah, the only thing I know about
But
this game is like you've like a baby on your back or something, and
yeah, you've got a baby strapped to your chest.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
really weird, and telling anybody about it in public will get people looking at you really weirdly.
It
Oh
is
yeah,
a
there's this baby in a pod you've got strapped to your chest, and you connect up with it. Like, sorry, what? Yeah, it's
I
not one to really talk about like that. It's a bit weird.
oh I should play it at some point. Wait, what? Yeah, there are so many games out there that I've need to my list of games that I want to play is just forever growing, and sometimes games will move to the top of the list. Like
Yeah.
Elden Ring right now is at the top of the list. Doesn't matter anything else that exists. That's the next thing I'm like next big new game I'm gonna play.
Yeah, I have that problem. I think probably a lot more
Mhm.
than a lot of people because I've got like 2,600 and something games, I think, on Steam. Now, and that's just on Steam. I mean, I went through the list of other systems I've got, as well.
Yep.
And obviously, I'm adding to that every week,
Yep.
almost every day without fail. I'm adding something to that list, and it's just. I think when I finally retire, when that day comes, I mean, I'm going to need a brain chip that can go in, and so I can just close my play through
Well, maybe
games.
Elon can sort that out with Neuralink.
Don't get me started on flipping Elon.
uh No,
That's
okay.
just
I need to explain the marketing genius that was Elon today. So you did see the Twitter API thing, yes?
yeah, where they're basically turning off the Twitter API for
Yes.
free people, and you have
Right.
to pay for it.
This is the 2000 IQ play that he's had. Okay, so it's great. So turning off the free API, everyone started running with numbers for what the pricing was going to be that were not the actual pricing. It was like pricing for a different part of the API, right? But he also put out this tweet saying, I'll see if I can find the exact tweet. Something like, it's only going to be $100 a month to get access to the API. I'll find the exact tweet. Yeah, free API is being abused badly right now by bot scammers and opinion manipulators. There's no verification process or cost, so easy to spin up 100k bots to do bad things. Just $100 a month for API access with ID verification will clean things up greatly. Now, this is the 2000 IQ play, so everyone's pissed off about $100 a month. Okay. This is what he did. This is the next thing he did. So, a reply to a random comment saying, I guess we could give all verified users access to the API. So he's got rid of the free tier, got it in your head that $100 is the price, bring it down, but still above where he started. And people will think it's a good idea now.
I wouldn't put it past him to just lump it in with the verified system. That was already a shit show when it released, and it's just ridiculous. In fact, I've got a Chrome plugin that will tell me if somebody has paid for Twitter Blue, and it will replace the icon with a clown face, which I'm very happy about. Now I can know whether somebody is actually a verified organization. Just a fucking clown.
I remember early on people were like, you know what, if someone pays for Twitter Blue, we'll just all bully them. And a lot of people have just accepted the fact that Twitter Blue now exists and they're paying for Twitter.
Yeah, and the thing is, I take the piss out of it.
Oh, absolutely. They deserve it.
I don't particularly like Twitter, but then I've never liked Twitter anyway. Even before Elon owned it, I was never a fan of it because social media has a lot of problems, and it's like people get behind social media, have a keyboard, and turn into shitheads.
Yeah.
Which obviously someone like me and you will have to deal with, a lot as creators. But the problem is that over time, more and more is being gated behind verified. And at some point, if I want the Gaming on Linux account on Twitter to make sense anymore, at some point I'll have to pay for it, probably. Otherwise, I'll be buried under everyone else. Yeah. And it's already happening, which is quite annoying.
Yeah, there are I was going to say, there are talks of throttling the non-verified account, effectively just shadow banning the non-verified accounts, because if you're not verified, you're probably a bot. So that means you're not legitimate traffic on the website because you're not paying for it.
All verified is now.
Yeah.
Is that you've verified, somehow you've paid. And that could be with stolen funds or anything. It doesn't verify shit. It verifies that you're capable of getting a card somehow and inputting details to pay. It's not verification anymore. It's fucking meaningless, and that's why I downloaded the Chrome plugin to turn people who buy it into a clown.
Yeah, but here's the problem, right? Twitter's gonna go bankrupt because Elon saddled the company with $1 billion of interest payment a year. So he's gonna make the money back quickly.
Yeah. And he's just making mistake after mistake after mistake. It's like when they just completely banned Mastodon, and then they said they were banning Facebook and Instagram, and the list just carried on and on. And obviously it's enabled stuff like Mastodon as a social network to add, I think it's at least 1 million extra sort of monthly active people on the service, I think it was. And it's kind of amazing, really. And to give you a comparison on just how bad Twitter actually is. So the Gaming on Linux account, for example.
Right.
61,000 followers on the dot. 6130s right now. I've just seen it, right? on Mastodon, it like has a fraction of the traffic of Twitter when you think about it, and we've got 33,000 people on that.
Wow.
The amount of hits and the amount of people interacting with it is like 100-fold on
Yup.
Mastodon, because Twitter buries people who don't pay now. It buries people who actually link, and I'm sure I saw loads of chat and like things on this. It will bury you more if you're sending people away from Twitter. So if it's just a standard Twitter post, or you've included the picture within the post or a video within the post, it prioritizes you more than if it links to somewhere else. And so this was what made me laugh about when Elon bought Twitter, and he was saying like, we're one of the top traffic pushers in the world, and it's like everybody who actually uses Twitter as any kind of creator and organization knows it's not. It's crap. It's like it gives you the tiniest amount because the algorithm has always pushed whatever it wants instead of what people follow, and half the people didn't even realize that they're even an. In fact, that's a change, right?
Oh.
One thing I do like is the new For You feed, which is a lot more like TikTok. There's a For You feed in the app and a following feed, and you can just easily swipe between them, rather than a hidden button behind a couple of stars to change to your actual, chronological feed. I actually quite like that. I think that was a good idea, and it's working quite well.
What I'm waiting for, so I don't use the main Twitter client. I use TweetDeck, and
Yeah, on desktop I use TweetDeck.
I am waiting for TweetDeck to become a part of Twitter Blue, because it's gonna happen.
They've been redoing TweetDeck for a long time now, and now pop up in the corner. Try the new TweetDeck. Nope, I've tried it and it's fucking horrible.
I didn't. Wait, there was a
so
pop
bad.
up. What? I didn't even notice.
Yeah, I've actually added the pop up as a blocked thing in uBlock, so it can never show me its face again because it's very, very annoying.
Wait.
But they just took something that was working perfectly and they've
this pop up?
made it worse. Basically,
someone was telling me about this earlier today. I don't. Where the hell's this pop up supposed to be? I don't, maybe it's just not showing up on my side yet. I don't know.
Is this one of those times where because I have so many followers that it will show me something? Maybe, I don't know. Surely you could just Google like new TweetDeck.
Yeah,
or
that's what I'm
something.
gonna do. New TweetDeck. Oh god, what is this? What? Okay. Wait, here we go. Why? Wait, do we see ads in here? Because I know that's one of the things TweetDeck doesn't show.
Oh yeah, that's the great thing about the current TweetDeck. No adverts. Amazing.
I'm surprised they let that go for so long, to be honest.
Yeah.
Why is this so bad? It looks like they've just taken the Twitter, like the main Twitter client, just crammed it into TweetDeck. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it does look a lot like that. It doesn't work very well either.
I can't imagine it
know why they did
does.
it.
But as I said, I'm waiting for it to become part of Twitter Blue, because it will be. Guarantee it.
Yeah, that would probably push me much quicker to have to pay for it.
Yeah, TweetDeck, honestly, it's just a much better experience than the main client. Like, for any...
Yeah.
I get using the main client for, like, just casual usage, but if you do any sort of, like, you have multiple accounts, you do any sort of businessy stuff with Twitter, it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah. Mastodon does have a layout that is, exactly like it.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is that you can't do like multiple accounts inside it. So I just ended up signing up on my personal account on a completely different instance, because then I can just have 2 tabs open.
Yeah.
It works great. And that is decentralization in action for something as simple as that.
But we are closing in on the 2-hour mark. So I think that should be pretty much it then. Let the people know where they can find you, where they can find your work, all that fun stuff.
Wait.
Yes.
I was going to try and show something.
Oh,
But
if you have something to show, we can keep going for a bit.
no, I didn't quite set it up, so
Oh.
yeah, never mind. It didn't work. Yeah, so just gaming on Linux, Twitter, Mastodon, YouTube.com.
Oh. Good branding. That's actually, it's always nice when someone just has like consistency everywhere. Because I don't. I absolutely don't. Because my Twitter is Brody on Linux. My YouTube is Brody Robertson. My Twitch is Brody on Games. Because people took the name Brody Robertson in a lot of places. This is the problem with using your name and not using something else.
That does remind me that I tried some rebranding recently and it didn't go very well. And I got stuck on YouTube as Go Linux Dude for a couple of weeks. And it was the source of many jokes, unfortunately. I mean, it got to the point where I was emailing, like, can I please have my name back? I was only testing something and you've locked it.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind. But yeah, consistency is key.
Absolutely. Yeah, is there any other things you want to mention?
Buy a Steam Deck.
Buy a Steam Deck. Yes, if you can, or parcel forward or something. As for me, if you're listening to the audio version of this, the video version is available on the YouTube at Tech Over Tea. If you are watching the video, the audio version you can find any podcast platform. There is an RSS feed, all that fun stuff. Are you just gonna go back to playing Fortnite?
What?
Gaming channel Brody on Games. Currently playing through. Actually, I think we might be done with Pokemon now, so I don't know what's going to be in that slot. Also playing through God of War 1, and then main channel. Main channel Brody Robertson, Linux videos, 6 days a week, all that fun stuff. Got any final words?
Buy a Steam Deck.
Buy a Steam Deck. See you guys later.